Hello and welcome back to Bamm Route TV. On this episode, we're going to talk about what happened after the day of the raid. That's when everything started going into place. Everything settled down. We started realizing the situation we were dealing with, and we started trying to figure out how to manage it. Now, when they housed us, they were not used to that many people being locked up at one time. So housing us, they housed us at the city jail, and they housed half of us downstairs and half of the bottom boys downstairs and half of upstairs. And they had those in like 13 or 17 people to a pod. And they have each one on had some on each side of the pods where they had 17 of them had beds back there at the back where they could play cards and exercise with each other. Then they can come up front to the table and exercise and eat with each other and talk and play and use the phone. But unfortunately for me, because of the stipulation they had on me, security level, and the fact that of my influence, they had me back in the part in the back considered to be straitjacket. They called those cells back there straitjacket. They were two man cells with two beds in there, one shower, toilet, and a phone. And they put me back there, and I was back there by myself. I could only see and talk to my co-defendants when I came up to visit. So I visit for 1 hour once a week. And when I come up to visit, I would spend 40 minutes with my four wives who used to come visit me, and I would spend 10 minutes with each one of them. And then I'll go back there and spend the other 20 minutes with my co-defendant trying to decipher the case and the things that they were saying about us and how we were trying to show what we could prove that this was not true. And we figured that these things could not be proved against us because we actually knew that they didn't happen. But we didn't know about the hearsay in the federal court. So therefore, they had a surprise for us, and we just couldn't see how no one could factually prove these things that they had against us. So we felt like we was in the clear. And then today got to the point where, with that hearsay thing, a person can get up there and say whatever he said and really without no validity to it. And unfortunately, we paid the price for that. But back at the back, I spent all my time back there until I was actually shipped out the courtroom to finally go to the penitentiary, to the federal penitentiary. But while I was back there, I had two cellies that stayed with me. Each one of those were my co-defendants who got in some trouble up front, and then they brought them back there as a punishment to put them back there with me, and I accepted them in. I had several other guys that they put in there, and most of them stayed like a day before they would take the phone card and choke themselves with it, and I guess try to commit suicide. And I would have to go beat on the door when they was incapacitated, laying there unconscious. I go beat on the door and have the people to come get them and say, "Hey, this guy here done choked himself with the phone card." But naturally, they didn't believe these individuals had did that. They figured that I had choked them with the phone card, so there was just more pressure on me and more things to deal with. And in doing that, I would be taken out to see my lawyer. I would go out to see my lawyer, and he would explain to me the different warrants that they had for hair, body, blood, all this. They actually had a warrant for us, say based on the fact that they said all bottom boys had to have a bottom boy tattoo on them. So they took us down there and they took pictures of our body under the warrant from the judge, and they realized that I didn't have a tattoo. That time I was afraid of needles. And my big brother being the one who offered this information to him, which was a lie along with many other things, but he offered this information to him, and they checked for tattoos and they didn't find any tattoos. My brother, unfortunately, was up on the stand for 3 days in an almost month-long trial. And so when they searched it down and they seen that I didn't have a tattoo, instead of the prosecutor conceding to that, he just twisted around and said that, well, since I was deemed the enforcer of the bottom boys, the point was I didn't have a tattoo because couldn't nobody make me get a tattoo. So it looked like no matter what we come up with or what evidence showed that we was not guilty of these particular things, they would manipulate the circumstances, and we would be. I mean, we'd be right back in the same situation. So as far as that and going to court, they'll take me down to see my lawyer, and I would spend an hour, sometimes even 2 hours, looking at the videos they had of us in the park and different things like that. And I was breaking down the videos and try to find the people who could verify these videos in the context that they was in, instead of the context that they were using them in. So in doing this, me and my lawyer, so finally, eventually, my lawyer come to me, and he called me down there one day, and I didn't understand what was going on, because he usually give me a heads up when we gonna meet. So he called me down there. So I go down there, but I walk down there and I go in the room. I see the DA, see the prosecutor, my lawyer, and another police officer standing outside the door. So when I go in there, I'm like, what's the deal? And so that's when the DA sit down and tell me about, he know that they don't have me for the things that they think I done, but they feel like that they know that nothing could happen in the bottom without me having something to do with it or some knowledge. So they then said that all I would have to do was to be affirmed or testify to the things that they are saying about my co-defendant Dunn and Goat. And I told him, I said, so what you saying? You want me to get up there and lie? I said, because I don't know nothing about them individuals in the capacity you talking about. I said, just give me 10, 12 years and let me get out of the way. They said, no, if you affirm these things that we already know about your co-defendant, then we will give you a 5-year sentence, and it could possibly be probation. So when he said that, I raised up. My lawyer was sitting over there with him. I raised up and I tried to act like I didn't hear what he said, and I was leaning forward. At that time, I wasn't. They used to not to put me in handcuffs in there, so I was leaning forward and I swung up, tried to slap him, slap the taste out of his mouth for disrespecting me in that manner. But I didn't really get this. I didn't really connect with him. But by then they ran in there and they wrestled me down, and we went on and they tussled with me. So from that point on, when I went to see my lawyer, I had to be in handcuffs and restraints in his presence. So eventually, I filed to have him recused from my case, have him took off my case, because I felt like it was a conflict of interest. If he was terrified of me and I couldn't be around him without being in handcuffs, how could he be in my best interest? So we got a hearing on that and everything. When I went for the hearing, the judge refused to recuse him, and he explained his situation and what happened and why, and that the cuffs was not put on me because of him or his fear. It was put on by the institution, because the officer had observed me trying to slap him. So therefore, he made a petition to the judge to have the cuffs took off me. He told the judge if he couldn't have the cuffs taken off me, then he would agree with me that he need to be recused. So the judge agreed and got the cuffs. I could go see my lawyer without the cuffs on me no more. And he explained to me that he was working for me and had to do his best for me, and that he didn't work for my other co-defendant, and he had to bring that offer to me because it was made. If he had not brought the offer to my attention, then he could be charged with ineffective assistant counsel. So therefore, he brought it to my attention, knowing that I was going to turn it down anyway. So because he used to be a police down in that very area, which is called the Bottom. So we went back and forth, and as you said, we had a very, very lengthy trial. You know what I'm saying? Just some of the preparation for it was lengthy. But after the trial was over and everything, I was shipped, and I'll get into the exactly details of different parts of the trial as we go on, which is public record. But I can kind of tell you a little insight about some different things that we was actually emotionally going through and we was facing that you won't find in the public records. But once we found guilty and I got my sentence, later on they did a PSI and they did our sentencing. And as soon as I went there, they shipped me right out of the courtroom, head toward Texarkana, to head for the federal penitentiary. I think in an act of malice, cause they used to see all the letters I used to get from different ladies and different pictures and different things like that. Ladies had sent me a tattoo they had put on them, and I think they deliberately, out of malice, they asked me what did I want them to do with my property. So I told them to take my property and just destroy it or throw it away. And they deliberately called wife number one and gave it and had her to come pick up the property against my wishes. Now, I think they believed that she was not aware of my lifestyle and the different women that, different wives that I had and everything. And I can't see how they could think that when she used to leave and let the other come visit me, and they used to all bring the different things together. But I think they did that out of malice and going on. So therefore, my wife and number one ended up with all my property, and they shipped me on the first thing smoking head for the USP Florence, Colorado. And that is what happened up until we went to trial and our sentencing. But I'll go into the trial thing later on. I enjoy talking to you, and I'll get better at this and get you a little more details, and hopefully it'll be informative and entertaining. Y'all take care. Love you.